Hey, good evening, party people in the place to be. I am Dave Valente, and thank you for joining us on the Political Deep Dive. Joined tonight by Dan, the man Fishman. How you doing, Dan?
I am good. I've been thinking about, the meaning behind our title,
Hey,
the
Janice.
political deep dive,
Mm.
because there's a lot of times that politics requires a deeper analysis of the truth, right? The
Yeah,
facts of what the situation really is. And unfortunately, we live in a world of, let's say it, right? Uneducated people who mostly could not be bothered to know the truth. They want other people to think for them. And that has
it's not
created a
even not
market
bother to know
for,
the truth.
yep.
They are being told what to think.
And it's easier for them to accept that than to fight it. They want
Sure.
to have, we talk about confirmation bias, right? It's easier for you to believe something that you agree with, right?
Yes.
You see, you agree with that because that's easy for you to believe. No, I'm just kidding. But confirmation bias, it's very difficult for most people nowadays to believe something that goes against what they have to say. There is a tremendous oatmeal out there. Uh, Not oatmeal like you eat,
Mm.
oatmeal the cartoon. And in it, the guy says, I'm going to tell you something that you're going to find incredibly shocking. It's like, but I want you to listen all the way to the end of what I have to tell you. And then he starts telling the story of George Washington and how we all know George Washington had teeth that were made out of wood. He said, but if you do a little bit of digging on that, you find out nobody had wooden teeth in those days. And in fact, George Washington had a set of teeth that were made of animal teeth, like, horses' teeth and stuff like that, or false teeth.
Yeah.
But and, he says, and then the author of the oatmeal says, now, how does that make you feel? Like, you're probably willing to believe that. And you're like, it's different than what I was told, but it's not too radical. He says, well, what if I told you that George Washington had a pair of false teeth that was made from the teeth of slaves that were extracted from them while they were alive? This is true.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty well documented, but
Yeah,
people
go to
don't
Mount
want to
Vernon.
believe
It'll
that.
tell you all about it.
Exactly. But people don't want to believe that. It was common practice. But because it's George Washington and all these other things, people are like, oh, no, that can't be true.
He had
And
slaves.
that's where a lot of our politics is. And we used to be in a place where we would teach people to examine things that made them uncomfortable, to find out what the truth is. But at some point in time, people found out a way to make money by saying, don't believe that shit that makes you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Here's pseudoscience, fake facts to make you feel
Alternate
better.
facts. Yeah.
Exactly. Because if you want to feel better about George Washington, or you want to feel better about, whoever, there are
Donald
people
Trump,
who,
Joe Biden, whoever. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Joe Biden, same thing, right? If you want to believe that Hunter Biden wasn't involved in some pretty shady shenanigans in Ukraine, go ahead. We will provide you with evidence. But really, if you do a deep dive into what actually happened, there's
Yeah.
some stuff that at the bare minimum warrants a lot more explanation and investigation than this administration has put into that.
Oh, absolutely. And, should we change administrations here in the next year? I'm sure that is going to become front and center. And all the other stuff that Donald Trump is facing right now will quietly go away. Um, well, probably
Which
not
is some
quietly.
crazy shit
We'll
too,
have,
because there's
yeah.
all these things that people say, oh, they don't want to believe. Like, people who want to say that Donald Trump did not rape EJ Dion, even though, the judge said this verdict against him is because he did. The statute of limitations is expired, but he clearly did rape her.
Yeah. Wasn't EJ
Talking about
Dion?
the kind, huh?
It wasn't EJ. EJ Dion's a guy, isn't it?
No. Sorry,
I was
Carol,
like, yeah,
Carol,
EJ Carroll. Yeah,
EJ
Gene
Carroll.
Carroll.
Sorry,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
EJ Dion is a male
yes,
correspondent,
yes,
political
completely
correspondent.
wrong. Sorry.
That would have been a
I mean,
different conversation.
it could have happened,
It
but
could have. I mean, if he wore a blonde wig, Trump
there's no.
clearly proved that he has problems telling blondes apart from one another.
Yeah.
So
So here's this thing with the war on the truth, and we seem to think about this is the worst it's ever been, and maybe it is because we live
it's
in an
different
age of,
now.
yeah, it's very different now, but it's not a new phenomenon.
No,
Okay,
not at all.
yellow
But
journalism, and I use the word yellow in the context of that talked about the fact that the papers that printed it at the time were printed on very cheap paper, and that's why they were yellow.
yep,
Um, two of the most famous Americans, Joseph Pulitzer and William Randolph Hearst, were
yeah,
engaged in a competition, the New York Post and the New York World, to sell newspapers. And so they made crazier and crazier stories to try to sell newspapers,
yeah,
most of them about Cuba and the Spanish occupation of Cuba. And they made these stories about how, Cuban women
remember the
were
name.
being raped and by the depraved Spaniards who were there. And eventually it led to a war. America
Yeah.
went to war with Spain when the Maine blew up, battleship Maine, over nobody knows exactly what caused it, but it's pretty clear the Spanish didn't cause it.
Well, I mean,
And
look at the Gulf of Tonkin
yeah,
incident. Same thing. I mean, um, yeah, it definitely is not a new thing. Um, in ginning up the rise to war. I mean, heck, the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. I mean, we got chapter and verse of fake news, really more propaganda. Fake news than what the Bush administration did was more propaganda than anything, and
Right.
selling the narrative that there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. And it wasn't a hard stretch to say, yeah, there's probably weapons of mass destruction because we did have evidence of them using chemical weapons both in
Exactly.
on Iran and on their own people in Halabja. Um, we just
And the other thing I'll say is that, Saddam Hussein didn't do himself any favors by banning the inspectors who were looking for weapons of
well,
mass destruction.
I think Saddam Hussein was in a place where he was never going to admit how weak he was when it came to weaponry because he knew that if he had put out there that he has no weapons of mass destruction or he has, he's depleted capacity, he invites an attack from Iran because Iran was still pissed. They're still pissed at Iraq over the Iraq
Yep.
war, at least a good segment of the population, the Sunni part of the population of Iraq.
And as we always
Um,
say on the show, if you're not Sunni, you're Shiite.
that's right. But yeah, uh, so Saddam was never going to admit to not having. He was just kind of going to live in that gray area as long as he could, and that fed into the narrative that the Bush administration wanted to push about weapons of mass destruction. And I don't know that the hey, Drew, how you doing? Hey, Craig, good to see you as well.
Yep.
Um,
AJ
uh,
is on assignment this week. She'll be reporting to us next week about her secret mission this week.
that's right. Yeah. But yeah, he was never going to admit because I think there was just the cost for him was too high, and I think he also had to factor in the Shiite population in Iraq going after him if he admitted that he had no weapons of mass destruction. So yeah, he was caught in a hard place. Now I'm not saying that
Dude, say the pun.
poor
Say the pun.
which one,
He was
a
caught
rock in a
between a
hard
rock and a
place,
hard place.
a rock in a hard
Exactly.
place. Yeah. But no, he. I'm not crying for Saddam Hussein. He definitely was a bastard who deserved to get yeeted. Um,
Sure.
but yeah, I mean, I understand why he never put it out there, but it also fed into the narrative that the Bush administration, which I don't know that the Bush administration really had that great of intel on the ground as to what Iraq actually had,
Yep. And
but they were
the
willing to lie to say that for us to go to war.
right. The other interesting thing about that is that, we had been excuse me, we'd been at war with Iraq 9 years earlier,
Yeah,
right? We kicked them out of Kuwait. And a lot of people were saying then, keep rolling, right? You've got
sure.
everything set up. And, militarily, would it have been a better decision? I don't know. I mean, I think militarily it's a non decision, right? I mean, we know
Well,
Iraq was a blip on the war. Now, the
sure.
occupation was completely fucked up. The,
Yes, of Kuwait. Yeah,
yeah. And the occupation was fucked up by American business interests, unfortunately. The correct thing would have been to do would be the James Baker plan, which was to split Iraq into 24 different fiefdoms and let each of the sort of village chief rule their area, because that's the natural order of Iraq. It's Saddam's iron
yeah.
hand that kept those guys together.
Yeah, I mean, at least three different administrative regions within Iraq probably should have emerged out of the ashes of the war. In that, you have a significant Sunni population in the middle of the country, you have a significant Shiite population in the south of the country, and the very significant Kurdish
Kurds.
population in the north. The
The
problem
Turks,
is
of course, didn't want the Kurds.
if you ever give the Kurds a homeland, the Turks will lose their shit. So
Yeah.
yeah,
However, the
but
Turks haven't been great allies recently.
no, they have
So,
not. The Turks are interesting.
Although they've gotten an election coming up.
Yeah, and the party of Erdogan has not been faring well in local elections, so perhaps there's a change ahead. Although I wouldn't put it past Erdogan to
Cancel
grip
the
tightly
election.
to power,
Yeah, I agree.
because
It'll be interesting to see.
that attempt to overthrow Erdogan, what was it, 2014 or so,
Yeah,
um, when they had a quote unquote attempted coup. It smelled the high heavens of just really a palace putsch to get rid of generals who weren't quite
exactly.
in Erdogan's camp and
Right.
to
It, it
consolidate
was,
power.
yeah.
And that's
But
why
listen,
I think Erdogan's been very close to Putin. Is that game recognizes game? Like it's kind of the same
well,
thing that Putin's done as well
and the Russians are happy to provide sort of intelligence support that
on the
lesser
PKK. Yeah.
countries, less technically advanced countries have.
Yep.
So, all that being said, talking around to this idea of the
Yeah, we
truth
got
being dead,
sidetracked.
yeah,
Yeah.
truth
So
being
I mean,
dead.
there's a
Well, I mean, Turkey is the origin of you know the most unbelievable story, right? Mount Ararat, right? The Noah legend.
yeah.
That's the most ridiculous of all the stories in the Bible, in the Judeo-Christian Bible, and most
Is it
religions
though?
have an iteration. Oh God, that
Well,
that
I
the
mean,
entire Earth was flooded.
so I don't think the entire Earth was flooded, but and it's not just like the civilizations that were in that area,
Yeah,
but every around the world have this
yep.
great flood myth that kind of centers around the same time, the Younger
Her-
Dryas
Herodotus
area.
has Herodotus has an amazing one where the daughter of Xerxes grows to be the size of a giant and urinates and floods the world.
I mean,
Um,
that's kind of cool, actually.
yeah,
Super
it's
soaker.
fantastic. I do sort of believe the idea that the Black Sea was a valley until water broke through the Bosphorus, and that's where the flood story originates from.
Or I think that there was some kind of rapid glacial melting at some point in around 10,000 to 12,000 years. Right around the time that Göbekli Tepe was built in Turkey. Um, you know,
But
we're
it's
we're
clear
finding old things.
nobody built a boat and put two of every animal. I mean,
No,
and then there's the giant hole that he didn't put two of every plant in there. So
yeah.
what happened? Did all the plants die in the 40 days
Hey,
underwater?
what happened?
Um, so yeah, it's
Original
crazy.
golden shower. Nice.
But we talk about it is the original golden shower. We talk about confirmation bias and people not caring about the truth. That's the sort of thing, right? The people who are comforted by religion say, "Oh, the Noah story is it's based on something or something like that." But so why is there the
Well,
fake
it's from the
story in
Epic
the
of
Bible,
Gilgamesh too.
right? Why
Yeah.
why why is there the fake story in the Bible? I mean, what is the purpose of that? If you don't watch out, God's going to kill the entire earth again, unless you have
Yeet.
sons named Ham and Shem and I can't remember the
You
third
know,
kid's name. Um, and then
Mo.
the rainbow is a promise to never do it again. There's all this crazy stuff in the Noah story, but that's the sort of fake news that people are choosing to believe now.
Yeah.
And normally it wouldn't matter, right? Who cares what you want your fantasy world to be? If you want to believe the earth is flat, if you want to believe that the pandemic was fake, if you want to believe, I don't know, other things that I don't care about, believe whatever stupid shit you want. I don't care. As long as we don't have a government which allows you to make decisions about my life and liberty.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
that's where we're broken. The only defense against these things is the idea of liberty, because you're not going to get people to stop believing a lot of the crazy stuff, right? GMO, right? This is a great example, right? GMO saves lives all around the world. Okay, there's no way around that. Uh, but there are people who want to tell you, oh, it's
There's
it's
a
terrible for
story.
this reason and that reason and all the other stuff. People who don't want to eat GMO don't eat GMO. It's fine with me.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, there's a story out now that Greenpeace is going after what is called golden rice. It's a new genetic, or probably not a new genetic modification of rice, but it produces higher yields and all that stuff. It has more nutrients and things like that. That they're pushing to ban it, and several Nobel laureates and scientists have said basically you are condemning millions of people to malnourishment and death by taking
right.
this off the market because we're not going to be able to feed with the current grain
Right.
stores, you know.
Yeah. Now, I will agree with Drew that
Monsanto,
Monsanto
yeah.
and this idea of the suicide seed, which is,
Yes.
for me, whenever we're at home and we have something that we eat and it's really tasty, we tend to save the seeds and try to grow them ourselves the next day. Monsanto is making crops that don't reproduce through straight up genetic modification,
Yes.
unless they are given in the presence of a certain chemical. There
Yeah.
is a
Well, and
legitimate,
brought to you by Monsanto.
yeah, there is a legitimate, and it's not too crazy to
That's it.
say, what happened if that genetic modification got loose in the world? And
Yeah.
suddenly all the world's plants said, oh, we're not going to reproduce anymore.
Yep.
That would suck.
Yeah,
But,
there is definitely an ethical concern, and yes, there are ethical concerns about genetically modified food. But if they're tested,
well, but not even, most of the concerns come out of the government protection of Monsanto, right?
yes,
Uh, Clarence Thomas's wife, right, is a
Minnie
was
Thomas
worked for Monsanto, right, high up in their board, all that stuff.
did. I thought
Privy
Hillary did as well
did Hillary as well. I mean, they they're
for a time
playing the
after.
political game of spending money, and then you know doing all sorts of crazy stuff with the government to try to justify government spending to make things happen. And so, they play with the truth. Another
Well, I
example
mean,
of a
look at and well, not NPR, well, probably to an extent NPR, but National Public Television, National Public Radio.
yep,
If you watch any of the news shows, they are more than likely going to have a sponsored by Monsanto, Archer Daniels Midland, all those
yep,
companies that you don't
the
know
Cokes,
exactly what they do, but they got a lot of money to do what they're doing.
the Cokes.
Yeah, the Koch brothers. Yeah.
Yeah, that huge sponsor of NPR. And I think about here's another example of one of the great bullshit lies that we've been told: ethanol, right? Ethanol from corn is undoubtedly just one of the worst decisions that has ever been made. It was made because of political influence.
Yeah, corn
Um,
industry.
right. Who was the crazy woman from Minnesota, Republican, God,
Republican.
anti-gay, and
Schlafly? No, that's
no. She was Congresswoman. Um, can't think of
I
her
can't
name now.
remember.
I'll
But
have
I
to,
mean,
I'll have to look it up. But
basically any of the Michelle Bachmann.
Michelle Bachmann, exactly right.
That's
And
it.
right, she was huge. Thank you, Dr. Moulton.
There are so many crazy congresswomen like
Well, but crazy Republicans from Minnesota is a small
that
group.
is yeah, that is a small subset.
Um, but she yeah, I'm gonna come back to Drew's point. But yeah, Michelle
Yes.
Bachmann, her family owned huge corn crops because Minnesota, and so she was big into bringing ethanol into the play, even though ethanol itself is a terrible idea. Ethanol from corn is an even worse idea, and she just screwed all this stuff up, and they spread these lies that ethanol is going to make everything better. It didn't.
Make the
It
gas
made things
cheaper.
considerably
Yeah.
worse. The best thing that would have happened would be to get rid of, everybody knows, get rid of the subsidies on fossil fuels, right? If fossil fuels, solar power is economically viable when gasoline is over $5 a gallon. Now, that's a hard time, right? When gas is over $5 a gallon, things aren't going well in the United States. But
all
Europe's been
the
saying that for a long time.
yeah, all the politicians are wringing their hands at $5 a gallon gas.
Exactly. But if we get rid of those subsidies, and again, it's just more of the sort of the lies that we're being told along the way that solar can't compete. Solar could compete if it was given a level playing field. It's government protectionism. And as Drew talks about, this whole copyright patent infringement thing, that's all government, right?
Hmm.
There's no idea. The entire idea that you could have a copyright or a patent on a seed is insane, right? I mean, copyright and patent are generally, copyright is one thing, patent is another. Let's not mix the two.
Sure.
But patents on science, which nobody made science, right? Science is the earth. It's like saying, "Oh, I have a patent on calculus." Yeah, calculus works the way that it does. The fact that you discovered it first doesn't mean that nobody else can use calculus.
Sure.
Same thing for, the mathematicians out there, of course, know that there were two people who simultaneously discovered calculus. Um, but we only know about Newton, or most people only know about Newton. Leibniz is the other guy. But back to this idea of, sort of truth and how much things get changed right now. There's two solutions that need to happen. One, we need to live in a world where it's not worth it to lie to people. But right now, it's incredibly worth it, right? You can't, it's not even, unscrupulous people who are doing it. There's a great book called Bias
Yeah.
by Len Goldberg that we talked about a while ago. Len Goldberg was a reporter at CBS, and he was able to document in the 70s how clearly CBS was biased against Republicans. And he showed his editors, he's like, look at these stories, look at the way that you wrote them, look at the way that these have been edited. And it's clear that we are putting a negative spin on Republicans and a positive spin on Democrats, which, first of all, 70s Republicans are today's Democrats. Maybe not Ronald Reagan, but and maybe Gerald Ford isn't a good example of a party guy. But that
Well,
well,
and but
go.
I would push back in saying that there were probably more stories that Republicans generated in the 70s when you think about all of the Watergate stuff
Watergate, sure.
and then Ford pardoning. But there was plenty of stuff to talk about in the late 70s with Jimmy Carter and the way things went under
Yep,
his administration. So yeah, I mean, and the gas lines and the price controls and the malaise of
right,
the Carter administration.
right. Yeah, and the Goldberg's point was that we are all biased,
Yeah,
and you know the best thing we can do is try to acknowledge the bias and talk about it in the stuff that we're doing instead of trying to say we're trying to be impartial, because nobody does a good job of trying to be impartial.
yeah. So I don't have like I don't. I'll watch CNN just if like there's a breaking news story that comes on, but generally my news source is like BBC or Deutsche Welle.
Yeah,
Um, but
I'm a big DW and NK1 person myself.
yeah, yeah. I really I don't mind a news organization having a bias, but don't push the idea that you're an impartial news organization. But we know that MSNBC is far left.
Yep.
CNN is pretty left.
Yeah, I would
There's
say
really, I
leftist.
mean, yeah, left of center. I would put uh, public
Fox is right,
broadcasting. Well, I
but
put
they're not
public
far right.
broadcasting just slightly left of center, maybe a little more left of center in the last few years.
Yeah,
Fox is right center,
yeah,
although they have their moments. So there's a difference between their broadcasting, their news, and
and their
their
entertainment.
infotainment.
Yeah,
And then you got your Newsmax, your OANN, those other organizations that are just
crazy.
way off on the right side. Yeah.
Yep,
Um, but I think part of the thing that's really hit at truth in media is the idea of the 24-hour news cycle and the need to fill 24 hours of news,
right,
especially in that primetime slot to give as many eyes on there. They really switched from actually doing the news to doing political opinion about the news,
right.
and it's a very naked bias towards wherever their newsrooms
You
are
said
are
naked.
tilted. Yeah, naked.
Yep. But it's true that, and it's they're biased because that's what people want to consume, right?
Oh yeah,
There's
but
no
that's
denying.
also led to some of the problems with us in our culture now is that we've siloed ourselves into only getting that perspective. So if you are a Republican and you're watching Fox News all the time, um, and the only time you change Fox News is you go to Fox Business, um,
Right.
or maybe watch the Sunday football game. You're just getting one perspective, and there
And
is there
if you were
is
to get another perspective, and if you were to hear it, you might feel bad about yourself. And who wants that
yeah
out of their news? I mean, there's a reality that a lot of the people who are supporting Trump are doing so because if they didn't, if they actually analyzed things, they'd have to admit, holy crap, he has played us for fools.
yeah,
And maybe there's a
and
little bit of
then
bias there, but
but it's not only translated to just watching the news. You've curated your friend list on social media. Again, that's
yep.
media because you're getting news and information from this thing that you're scrolling through 24/7. But you've curated your friends list and media uh, biases to feed you only that information to confirm your biases towards that. You know, horrible things like clickbait articles and things that just feed your confirmation bias about just crap.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
The breakdown comes in a bunch of different ways. Uh, One, most people only listen to the stuff that confirms what they believe because it makes
yep.
them feel like I'm right. Uh, we talk a little bit about Dunning Kruger in
Yes.
that the smarter that you are, the more you doubt that you may be right. Okay. And so the stupidest people are the ones who are the
He was
most
right.
confident that they're right. And, there's a funny comedian, George Carlin thing. He says, the Beatitudes, Jesus on a hill, saying all these things. One of the things he says is, the meek will inherit the earth. Well, it's not going to do them any good because the powerful will take it from them.
The powerful have destroyed the
And
earth by the time they get it.
Dunning Kruger is kind of like that with the news because the smart people are like, well, maybe there's a realistic chance that this thing that I'm pretty sure is right isn't right. And as such, they entertain things. Whereas the idiots say, oh, well, this is absolutely right. I'm not even going to have any conversations about it.
Yeah.
And that's where we're broken. I don't think we can fix that. I don't think we can fix the endorphin rush that people get out of seeing their opinions parroted back to them on the news. And that's a lot of what the news is, where, they do polls and they say, oh, look, people believe this. Well, let's give them a story validating what they believe.
Oh yeah. I
Because,
mean,
go ahead.
drag queens and drag queens and the immigration crisis. I mean, are these the
They
worst
took
things that
her
are going on?
jobs.
Yeah, are these the worst things that are going on in our country? Are there systemic issues that are going on in our country that are destroying the life that we have been trying to build in this country for decades? Um, I would submit that no, I don't really care if a drag queen is at a library reading books to kids because somebody's actually reading a book to a kid.
Yeah. I mean,
I'd
that,
rather them read a children's book than a priest reading a Bible to a kid.
right.
Far
But,
safer.
well, and so it's interesting because let's talk about this question that's going around right now, right? Uh, if your daughter was walking alone in the woods,
Yeah, I've seen this.
would you rather her that she encounter a bear or a man that she doesn't know? And my comment about this was a bear never pretends to be anything other than a bear.
This
And
is true.
that's what the difference is, right? The bear is straightforward, and Dan Rather from UT graduate too. I just want to point out.
Yeah. Dan Rather was recently he this morning was interviewed on CBS, his first time on CBS since being bounced out for that
The George Bush.
the George Bush military service record, the falsified records
Yep.
that they reported on. That was another episode of fake news in that CBS got fooled by a story that, and it was kind of the first really internet sleuthing that really brought a story down like that, where people were just like pulling data points, like the fact that
It
the
showed a
font on the
fraction.
letter,
Yeah.
yeah, the font on the letter did not exist in 1960 whatever.
Right.
It didn't. It wasn't brought in until the 80s, and you're like, oh wow, so this was faked, you know?
Right. And it had a superscript. So like it
Yeah,
showed 3/4 is 3/4 in one space as opposed to 3/4, like
for
the old
yeah,
timers among us will remember having done. Um, yeah, it was, but again, that's a perfect example though of people being so willing to rush forward with the story that, and think about how many major news people have disappeared too, right? Brian
Brian Williams. Yeah,
Brian Williams. I was going to say Brian Adams,
I
but
was there. I was there, but he
right,
weren't there.
yeah, which is crazy. I mean, it's just insane.
Why commit
But
career suicide on something stupid like that?
but well, because people want to believe not just like the world, but that about themselves. These things, like I bet you that to a certain extent, he liked believing that story about himself, and that was why he told it. But we're not going to fix that. I don't think that we can fix people's desire to be fooled because it makes their lives more believable. Because really, people's desires to be fooled, I'll go ahead and say it right now and get us banned. That's religion too. Okay. That's a lot of what that stuff is. People want to believe in whatever
I
comforts
did
them.
see that picture.
And, I'll think of sometimes it's easier to believe things. I was, confirmed atheist slash agnostic. I didn't believe in an afterlife for most of my life. But now as I get older and I think about, now that I know that there are more days behind than there are ahead, I would like to imagine, take some comfort that this can't be all there is, that maybe there's more. So I believe that lie for myself.
I don't know that that's a lie. I would like to do a show on near death experiences at some point because I've been watching. You start scrolling on YouTube, and all of a sudden, that topic just keeps rolling over. If you watch a video, you just keep getting fed that. And the similarities in the stories of near death experiences are just fascinating to me. Um,
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like UFOs, right?
yeah,
The similarity of stories in the UFOs, the Roswell Grays and all that stuff.
yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't know. Like that, the agnostic in me says that I don't know, but I'm not going to bet against any
Well,
outcome.
I don't think it does you any harm. And depending on what you believe that religion wants you to do, like if you let religion constrain your life so that you don't have a happy life, the idea that that's going to get me into the afterlife suffering, then you've done yourself a disservice. But
No, and I mean, to me, I think if there is an afterlife, it is not based off religion as we're being sold it here on Earth now. I
right,
don't think that. I think the afterlife, if there, if we, the energy that we are emerges from us at our death and goes to another plane, that
if
um,
yeah, exactly. If
we're,
there is a divine,
it's not going to be fire and brimstone and all that.
if there is a divine being, they are not preventing you from eternal life because you ate bacon or meat on
Better
Friday
not be.
or
I'm screwed.
took the Lord's name in vain, motherfucker, or anything like that. Those sort of ridiculous rules.
Sure.
And I don't even think that it would be for whether or not you were kind or a good person, even though I would like to think that those things are rewarded. But if there were a benevolent uh, creator, um, I don't want to say overseer, but watcher, uh, he, she, it would be wise enough to extend grace and mercy to everybody
Yeah. I
because
mean, that's the one thing I've heard, with these NDEs that I've been watching is the idea that it's not, we're here to learn a lesson, that we're here to learn and grow.
yeah,
And then we return and then eventually come back. That's the like kind of the
sure,
universal message of the things that I've seen with these things is
there's a
you
karma
go,
idea there.
you review your life, you review the lessons you learned, and then a lot of them say you choose your next life. I would like to believe that. I'd like to believe that there is something there, that there's something beyond that, that we are here for a purpose rather than just
Right,
somehow the right cells conglomerated and we made humans, like having
right,
something beyond us to understand.
right. But so now we get into this space of right, religion's never going to go away
No.
because people take comfort out of it.
Yeah.
But what we have learned to do, at least here in the United States, still pretty well, is that we don't have elections about religion. We don't
They're
say,
becoming
okay,
more and more about religion.
well, a little bit, but I think even most Americans would say, I'm not going to expect that if the Catholics win a religion, we're all going to become papists. Or,
Yeah.
you know, if somehow, let's
But
just say,
that was the fear when Kennedy was running, was that
yep,
if Kennedy becomes president, then the nation's going to become a papist nation. Part of the reason why he selected Lyndon Johnson was because he was a good old Southern Baptist boy that would
absolutely.
solidify
Yeah.
the right flank, really, to the right, conservative flank of the Democratic Party at that
The
time.
Boston to Austin connection, no question.
Yeah,
Um, but we still have pretty strong religious tolerance. Even even in this really charged environment, and we could talk about the rise of anti-Semitism and Islamophobia and Hindu hate crimes. I made that one up, but I'm sure it's happening somewhere.
oh yeah, that's
Um,
happening, definitely
all
happening.
that stuff, right? There's Asian hate going on.
Yeah,
Uh, in light of all of those things, generally, well, I think we have bigger religious tolerance here than there is anywhere else in the world. The idea that we would have an election and say this religion gets to be in charge for the next 2 years, the next 4 years. Crazy. So why do we do that with politics? That's where we've become crazy.
Yeah.
And the only thing the only way out, I think, is to change government so that it has less power.
Sure.
Then everybody can believe whatever the hell they want to believe because they don't have the capacity to make other people change the way they
Do
do
you
things.
rise in government or rise in religious acceptance in government is the fact that people find comfort in religion and they want more comfort from government?
Government is deliberately trying to fill that void. So Karl Marx talked about religion being the opiate of the masses
Yeah.
because it is exactly that. It is addictive and it dulls your senses. Our government sees that. And what it's trying to do is it's trying to take the place of religion in the places where religion has really done well, namely public charity, right? It
Yeah.
used to be that houses of worship were responsible for most of the charity work that happened, especially in the big cities. Now, a lot of that is religiously tied because it was a house of worship. Salvation Army, St. Jude's Church, any number of things. People can, Samaritans,
Yep.
uh, all these things. But government, and honestly, perhaps with the best of intentions, but government is trying to take those things away. And it's consistent across the board. Government expands into the areas that they argue the private charities aren't doing a good job of taking care of them. But think about, the
And they're
big,
making it illegal for private charities to take care of people now, you know?
they're certainly making it illegal for personal individuals, right? A number of people have been
Yeah.
arrested and gone to jail for feeding the homeless.
Religious people too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because, right, they think that's what they're commanded to do.
Yeah.
And here's that scenario where the only fix to that is to take the power away from government. And the only way to make that happen is to stop electing Republicans and Democrats who belong to a party that only wants to win elections. And the way they win elections is by when they get in power,
Scaring the shit out of you.
they pay, yeah, right, they scare you, and then they pay off the people who they want to vote for them with services. So, Biden forgiving student loans, right? That's ridiculous. Trump, right? The payroll protection plan. Is that Trump? Is that, I
Yeah.
think it
That
was.
was Trump.
Yeah. That's paying off his good buddy saying, yeah, keep your business going and we'll pay you
And
to keep people.
we'll give the American people who have been out of work for however long like $2,000 out of all that money, out of $10 trillion that we dumped into market liquidity and the three bailouts, the $2 trillion each time. Um, if you had split that up between every man, woman, and child in the United States, it would have been like 28,000, thirty-two
Right.
thousand per person.
Right. It would have made much more sense. And that's why, like, to a
I
certain extent,
mean, inflation would have gone out of control because you dump 120 some odd thousand on a family of four. They've now all of a sudden they've got a ton of money that a lot of them
right.
wouldn't have normally had. So yeah, inflation would have gone through the roof because again, we're printing money. We're just money printer go,
Yeah, I mean, that stuff is absolutely, that was crazy, but it's an example of sort of the government buying ownership of social responsibility, the social safety
Yeah.
net. And we've said this before on the show. We ourselves are changed for the worse as a people, as humans, if we no longer feel a sense of responsibility towards each other. The saddest thing you can hear somebody say is that's what I pay taxes for, when it means caring for another human being,
Yeah.
because government cannot care for another human being. And politicians don't care about human beings unless they're voters, and then they only care about their votes.
One
The only
time,
person,
one day out of every 2 to 4 to 6 years,
exactly.
that's the only time they care about the voters.
Right, exactly. And then they care about them as numbers. They don't care about them as people.
Yeah.
And look, it's a generalization. There are, of course, some politicians out there, some people who are elected who are good and honest people.
And then there's
But I
Christy
think
Nolan.
90% of the people elected at federal office only care about getting reelected, getting elected to higher office, and then imposing their will. Uh,
Yeah. Or being
and
the
that's what
the
go ahead.
being the peacock on TV. All apologies to NBC, but being the peacock that everyone
You
looks
said
at and
cock.
complains about. Yeah.
You said P.
You said there are a few good politicians, and the rest are like Christy Nolan.
Yeah.
How about that story this week?
Which one?
The Christy Nome story. Have you heard about that one?
Oh, she killed a
The
dog.
governor. Yeah.
What exactly was the scenario? I don't quite
So
understand.
she has bird dogs, and she had a I can't wired I can't remember exact breed of dog. Um, but she said that the dog was untrainable, was had I think she said it bit her, but there was no evidence of it biting her. Um, but she hated this dog. Said it was not a good bird dog, and in haste, on one afternoon, she decides to take this dog to a gravel pit, throw the dog in the gravel pit, and shoot it before the children come home from school.
She said
And
that?
yeah, oh yeah, she did. And then, in a fit of bloodlust, she grabbed the family goat and did the same thing because the goat would chase the kids around the property. Animals are doing animal things, and
I
she
hadn't heard this. I saw like I know there's a meme going around of her and Michael Vick, and I mean I got it, but I didn't know the whole story. That's insane.
So you see the kid on the beach crying with the gun in his hands. That meme.
No,
So there's like this meme of a kid on the beach, and he's like one picture he's got the gun in his hand, and on the next picture he's kind of holding his face like he's crying, and it said Christy Nome's husband when she asked him to do her doggy style. But you know
that's
what? I mean, honestly, if it's bad to do to dogs, or if it's okay to do dogs, maybe it's okay to do that to politicians. Like it bothers me,
it's pretty
the
crazy.
callousness.
Yeah, I mean, especially to put a goat down. That's really crazy to me. Um,
Even a dog down. Like rehome it.
it, I
It was a
there are some.
puppy. It was like 14 months old. So
Okay, yeah,
under two
14
years
months.
old,
I
it's
agree.
considered a puppy.
It should go somewhere else. There
Yes.
are dogs that are biters that shouldn't be rehomed.
But the solution is not shooting them in your backyard. It's
No,
taking them to be
yeah,
euthanized,
exactly.
medically euthanized.
Humanely. Yeah.
Yeah, don't. That's just the. She was actually one of the favorites to be named Donald Trump's vice president.
Yeah.
You know, young, semi-attractive governor of, I mean, not a state that will help Donald Trump, but I don't think that really matters to him, and somebody who's been very loyal to Donald Trump. So, um, but yeah, overnight. No, I wouldn't be surprised if Donald Trump still picks her because that it seems like that would be something kind of up his alley. Um, but her, the betting marketplace for politics, her numbers went from the top ranked contender to bottom of the list at 4%. So, um, but yeah, that was a crazy story that
So
came
it's
out this
pretty.
week, and I wish it was fake news. I really do wish it was fake news. I wish it was it was a lie and manipulated and all that stuff. But this actually came out in her book that she released this week.
Yeah, which is crazy. So it's sitting there
So
in print for, 6 months. And nobody said, well, maybe we should pull this story, take this part out of the book. That's
yeah,
insane.
yeah. I mean, I'd
Uh,
heard about the story that this had happened, but I didn't hear the particulars. But the particulars really came out this week. I guess as we get closer to the time when the politicians name their vice presidential candidates, or at least Trump does, that we start hearing bad stuff. We'll wait to hear the stories about Tim Scott and whoever else. Carrie Lake's running for office, so he won't pick her. But we'll see the bad stories come out about the other potential candidates soon. Hopefully, none of them shot a dog. But so ways to combat this, and I know that Dan's saying that as a people we are in a loop that is probably not going to stop. But as consumers of news and information going forward, you know,
The
this
problem is
is
you're talking to our listeners. Our listeners are the people who already know this stuff. Okay. And
sure.
they're the ones who are looking here for the deep dive. Well, the way we started off, we said, the name of the show is deliberate because, you and I push each other on issues. You don't let me get away with a lot of the shit that I can just blow past a lot of lesser minds. And likewise, you try to really pull the wool over the reader's eyes a lot. I'm just kidding. But that's that sort of thing. We push each other and we try to examine issues deeply and we call each other out on stuff. Okay. But
there's stuff coming down the pike right now that we haven't faced before. And one of those things would be AI, the influence of AI. Now, we can all point and laugh at AI generated pictures where somebody's got legs dangling. I posted one where there's like this perfect American family, and they if you look at it closer, there's like, oh, there's some deformities there.
Yep.
So, it's not perfect, but I'm seeing ads on Facebook, and I can't find the ad now that I've been looking for it. But there's like an ad on Facebook for, I guess, since I'm a fat guy, I get the diet weight loss ads. John Goodman is hawking this pill. But if you look at the ad closely, if you're scrolling on your phone, it may be a little too small to actually see it. But it doesn't look natural. After a while, if you just look at it closely, look at John Goodman sitting there talking, his body doesn't move. It's basically they've taken a still photo of him, and his mouth is moving, and the voice sounds pretty much like his voice, but it's an AI generated ad to sell you this diet thing that he doesn't endorse. It's not him endorsing the product; they're just using his name, image, and likeness to sell this product. And because John Goodman didn't lose his weight by a pill, he lost it through bariatric surgery and hard work. And so, they're trying to sell it as this miracle drug, but it's not. And it's frustrating because this is getting better. I mean, it's not completely out of the realm of possibility. I mean, you remember in 2012 when Mitt Romney got into trouble because somebody recorded a very low res video of him saying, well, my job is not to reach the 47% of Americans who are dependent on the government. I need to reach out to the other people. And it really, I think he was going to lose that election anyway, but it really torpedoed his election for a good number of months, that and the binders full of women statement. But who's to say that we get a low res video of a candidate making off-putting statements?
They kind of have, and it becomes have done that. I have the fake ad here. Let me share my screen.
Yeah.
Let's see. That's not what I want to do. What I want to do is share screen. And the audio should come through with this.
Keto gummies, weight loss gummies. It's all a big scam. So let's hit play.
Hello, I'm John Goodman, and I'm very excited to tell you about something really amazing. For a very long time, I couldn't lose weight even with diets in the gym. But
it's a scam.
Finally, I just want to mention the keto gummies.
It's a scam
from a well-known pharmaceutical.
In case someone tried.
But look how good that was, right?
Yeah, that's a different one than I've seen. That one would have been like, oh, he actually is endorsing it. The other one I saw was a little more obvious. But But yeah, the thing is, question everything, especially the more fantastical it is. And I know that some of us really hate either Trump or really hate Biden or really hate both. And anything that comes across your timeline that says Donald Trump said this about, because it is kind of believable that Donald Trump will say anything, or that Joe Biden will say anything because he's kind of not there anymore. Um, but get
But
some
what
get
you
some
know, it's
confirmation on that stuff.
but here's the thing.
Don't be so quick to
What
share it.
Yeah, that's a big thing. And then, like, I got to tell you, I am exhausted at correcting idiots who share stupid shit. I mean, stuff that clearly could not be true. And a lot of times, sometimes it's I don't want to say friends of mine, but people that I know pretty well. I'm like, I can't believe you shared this without checking it at all. And I'll just look at it. I'm like, you know, if you say to yourself, that's unbelievable, it probably is unbelievable for a reason. There's a reason why you
Yeah,
don't
dig a
believe
little
it,
bit.
because it's not true. And James, I don't think we're friends on Facebook. Maybe we are, but it's not you. It's other people who share stupid stuff, and I can't believe it. And I'm weary of correcting them.
Yeah, I mean, I've shared some dumb stuff before, and have been corrected. A lot of times I share stuff. It's mainly for the title, and I want to make a joke off of the title.
Right.
So I mean, it's not like I'm sharing it for serious. I'm sharing it for lulz. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I probably should do a better job of identifying that I know this isn't serious and that this is a joke, or fake news or whatever. But
Yeah. No, I mean, I see stuff all the time.
oh yeah,
And it's just fake stuff about either Trump or Biden. And it's so sad. It is so sad to me that people have lost this ability to question things, that they will just blindly go through when, if anything, right? If you believe in any idea of America, part of it should be that we ourselves are the keeper of this idea that we're in this together. And we can't be in it together if we're allowing one side or the other side to get away with just absolute lies, to fan this polarization. I don't want to say polarization flame because that sounds opposite, but because the polar is cold and flame is hot. But to flame the fires of intolerance. That's a better way to put
yes,
it, because it really is intolerance, right? The fact that you can't stand that drag queens exist, or you can't stand that billionaires exist, or whatever is the thing that you find, you know, so offensive. Most of the time, the best answer is, I got to tolerate that. Because if you don't, once you start down the slippery road of intolerance, then everything goes to shit. And when you start to say, you know what, I don't want to have to tolerate that anymore, somebody use the power of government to make it illegal, that's when we really get screwed up.
yeah, that's scary times happen.
Yep.
Scary, scary times. Let's see. News of the week. Have you been following the Donald Trump trial at all?
A little bit. We talked about this last week. I mean, I think he's probably going to get fined again.
Yeah.
But and I think he's probably going to be found guilty. But the question is, well, so here's the thing too. Now, this I did hear, and I don't actually understand this. It's not even campaign finance that he's being charged with violating. It's bookkeeping. And so that's even more interesting. It's not that the way that he spent the money, it's the way that he recorded how he spent the money that is illegal.
Yeah. I
And
mean, that makes
so,
sense. I wouldn't pretend to know the New York law. I avoided law school, so. But yeah, the interesting thing about this whole episode, this whole exercise, is that we've had Donald Trump stuck in a courthouse in New York City for an entire week, and he's only really able to campaign during the weekend. He can come out during the week and campaign around New York City, but if he misses court, he has to be in court. So I mean, if he misses court, we're looking at contempt of court charges. He's also looking at contempt of court charges if the judge rules that he violated the gag order in talking about Michael Cohen, who's a witness in his trial, on a national interview. I think the greatest sin for Donald Trump right now, he's burning, sitting there.
Yep.
The greatest sin for him is that he has to sit there, at least fake paying attention to the trial itself, not react, and he can't be on his phone. Because he would be live tweeting this thing if he could, but he can't be on his phone. I think his phone is confiscated. Usually they confiscate it or tell you can't bring any electronics into a courthouse. So that's probably the greatest sin for Donald Trump, is just sitting there for 8 hours a day, 4 or 5 days a week. Also, this week we saw the arguments in the presidential immunity case go before the Supreme Court. That's an interesting case. I think this is, I don't really think that he really thinks that he's going to get immunity. I think it's all a tactic to delay all the other trials, especially the criminal prosecutions based off of what happened January 6th.
Yeah, I mean, it is, the justices raised an interesting question as to if the president is not immune, shouldn't every president expect to be tried if there's a...
When they started listing off all those crimes, I was like, yeah, do that one. Obama killing Americans overseas. Yeah, let's do that one too.
Right. I mean, and it's a fascinating question. But
Bush lied about the war. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. I mean, I actually thought that he could have said, Your Honor, the justice system covers all of this stuff. In the execution of your duties, it's one thing. In the cases where there's controversy over whether or not that's actually the execution of your duties, then we should have a trial. And, trust the justice system to know the difference between the president ordering the assassination of, let's just say, when Lyndon Johnson ordered the assassination of Martin Luther King, right? He should have been prosecuted for that. I'm just kidding. That's not what happened.
I was like, wait a minute.
But that sort of thing, yes. On the other hand, and Trump trying to, incite a rebellion or stop the counting of the electoral votes, right? Because I mean, that's what they were really trying to do. Trying to stop the counting of the electoral votes because you can't have a new president without that. What I've often thought, though, is that it would be nice if the president's term ended on the 31st of December, and then we didn't have a president for 20 days.
Ooh, that'd be nice.
Right? Wouldn't it be nice?
Like my screen name tonight, NOTA 2024. I would love to have us do a NOTA for an election. Just choose NOTA and just exist without a president for a while.
Well, I do. Again,
turn it off and not turn it back on.
My real disappointment, if somehow things come together and I make a lot of money in the next few years, which maybe I will, and we could talk about how that would happen. I might consider running for president. If I had money, I would run on one thing. I have only one platform. I'm going to veto every single bill that comes before me, no matter what. Okay? Even if I like it, I'm going to veto it. Because I want to have something that passes by 2/3 vote. The idea that we're going to have consensus. Thank you, Dr. Moulton.
Yeah, I vote for you too.
I appreciate that. That's very
As long as you make me boxing commissioner or something like that.
that would be awesome.
Ambassador to
Well,
San Marino.
Here's the problem, right? So I am friends with the head of the NHL Players Association, the guy from Boston, Marty. Such good friends that I can remember his last name. So I can't give you that job. But what was I going to say? But
Department of
all I want to
Safety.
do is I'm going to run on that one platform, veto everything. Okay, and you don't need me for anything else. Let the people govern themselves. I'm not running for president to be your leader. The people don't need to be led. Okay, the people are not sheep. I'm running to be the greatest possible public servant.
Sure.
And I serve the people by saying, you kids have to find a way to live together. We've seen that thing with the get along shirt where you put two kids in a
Oh, we could put
that's what America needs.
Let's
Put America in the
Eric
get along shirt.
Put Eric Swalwell and
AOC.
Marjorie Taylor Greene in the same shirt, and then Matt Getz and Nancy Pelosi in the same shirt. Because I wouldn't. Matt Getz would. That's way too old for Matt Getz. So it was a little safer.
Anyway, so once again, neither candidate took my idea for a campaign, but that's what I'm going to run on.
There you go.
And I'll talk about all I want. The idea of smaller government. This is what I'm going to advocate for. But the way I'm really going to get there is I'm going to veto every single bill. So I'm not announcing.
I'm going to teach you people how to compromise.
I'm not announcing my 2028 campaign. I would be 60 years old. That's not too old to be president.
That's a spring chicken, man.
Yeah.
Compared to what we got now.
Well, so that's interesting. So let me talk about then, in this case, if you don't mind me sharing what I'm doing right now and how I am hoping to make a lot of money, but also to help this world that we live in. So let me find this. So first of all, I'm going to share my screen again.
Caring means sharing.
This time I'm going to show videos. So I am a CTO of a company called Real Report. And we're in demo stage right now. So you can find us at real, REEL report.net. But what we're doing is we have a video recording system that gets installed on your phone. And it gets installed on your phone. And while it records video, it also records all the metadata on your phone at the same time. The GPS, the accelerometer, the magnometer, all of these things. And then what it does is it uses machine learning behind the scene to watch the video. So our machine learning program watches the video and compares it with the GPS. And you can see the magnometer data here and the accelerometer data and the compass direction. And these are all rough things right now, but it validates the video. So first of all, we can guarantee that the video was taken in this place at this time. So, I have a friend who lives in India. He shot this video for me. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so that you can see where it is. It's on the West Coast. There, people can recognize that part where we are in India now. Let me zoom out a little more. See, India. All right, let me zoom back in. But now what's interesting about this video is you'll see that this car is moving. And if you watch the map, at the same time, you see the thing move down the map. And so we're validating all of this stuff at the same time. So what we do is we guarantee that every video that you see was shot in this place at this time. And the idea, is pretty straightforward. There's a lot of fake video out there. But if you see it on Real Report, you know that it was a real video recorded in our app, unedited, no deep fake, stuff like that. So here you
So
go. Go ahead.
privacy concerns, though, would like if you don't
So
want this.
if you don't want it, don't use our app,
Okay.
right? I mean, there's plenty of video recording apps out there, but so it's funny you say that, Chuck, because part of what we're doing in our thing is that we actually release all of the metadata as well. So we have a video format called MP5. It is a derivative of MP4. In the MP5 file format is all the other metadata in there: the magnetometer, accelerometer, GPS, etc. And we allow anybody to download the MP5 and to validate the data themselves, because
So
we do believe that people are going to try to submit fake stuff to us. However, and GPS is actually, there are plenty of really good fake GPS programs out there. I'll stop sharing this now. But what they don't do well, the fake GPS programs that you use, they have you in one spot at the time. They don't do movement. It's the deltas that make it really, really hard to fake. The transition from here to there to there to there. So while the machine learning program watches this program, it says, okay, well, I can see that this guy is actually traveling southwest, but he's looking northeast because they're holding the phone out the window, but he's moving southwest. So does the GPS show that information? And when he turns the phone for a second, does the metadata show a 90-degree turn at that precise moment to sync up with the video?
that's interesting.
Yeah.
The people I would be selling this to, news
Yep.
organizations, because they're always trying to verify their videos are done where they're done.
So we have three verticals launching. The first, we have an idea of marketplace. So we have two things. First of all, we have a product called Ping, and a couple friends of ours who journalists in the Liberty Movement, are going to create the field of video broker. We're going to give them $1,000 a day. What they do is they go to a map and they say, I think there's going to be news here. They click a spot and it says, I'm creating a Ping. Ping is sort of Uber for video. And they say, okay, anybody who can shoot a video for me in this spot, let's say, the steps of the Supreme Court or in Times Square at 2 p.m. in the afternoon, whatever, I'll pay $20 for that video. Then anybody can go there with a phone. They upload it, you approve it, you now own that video. As a business, then, if you know the industry, you say, you know what, now I can go sell that video to CNN because they need a B-roll from Yosemite or wherever. Or if I'm a reporter for CNN, I might grab some B-roll video that way.
Or
all those things are options.
Or if I'm monitoring the news desk at CNN and I notice that something big has happened, say we've had massive outbreaks of tornadoes in several locations in the country.
Yep.
Ping, 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 right there. Give
Yep.
me some video if you got video of the.
Exactly. And, that's a great example, because when these tornadoes broke, the big tornadoes that hit Nebraska, somebody posted a tornado that was actually the Clinton, Mississippi tornado that, was incredibly devastating from like 10 years ago. But they renamed it and said Nebraska tornado video, blah, 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 blah. And it did 20 million views in 12 hours on YouTube.
Yep.
For people who know the algorithm, it's $5 for every 1,000 views. So 20 million views, 20 times 1,000 is 20 million times 1,000 is 1,000 times 5. That's $40,000. That guy made $40,000 by putting up. It's not even a fake video, right? It's just a fakely labeled video, because right now there's no way to say this video was shot in this place at this time.
Yeah.
That's number one that Realport addresses. Number two, you probably heard about this big problem in Florida where home insurance is almost impossible to get right now. So, Chuck, yes, we want the Dorothy look. But think about that, right? Remember that phone that fell from the airplane but was recovered on the ground? That would have been awesome if it had real report running on it at the same time.
Yeah.
However, so Florida has this big problem right now with insurance scams, where when a hurricane hits Florida, the insurance companies, and our friend Joe Burns talked about this, they don't have enough people to evaluate houses. So what they'll ask you to do is they say, your roof was damaged. Send us a video of your roof, and we'll tell you how much that's worth, and we'll send you a check right then. So what people do is they send a video of their neighbor's roof, and they say, look at all this damage. They're like, oh, yeah. Real Report plugs into apps and stuff like that. You say, oh, no, you live at 1207, and this video was shot at 1203 on Main Street or whatever. I wish I chose an address that wasn't time related. But you get the idea behind that.
Yeah.
Then another video, and then every person we've talked to has another idea for verticals. And part of the way that this works is it's a very API driven application. So almost anybody can use our underlying system and build an app on top of it. One of the very first apps you're going to see is securitydeposit.com. So you're a landlord. Right before you rent the spot, before your new tenant moves in, you walk around once with a phone and you just record the video. But we record the physical address. So we know that happened at 123 Main Street. And you put in there apartment B. Okay. Then when the tenant moves in there, you tell them, hey, you go ahead and record the state when you walk in there. They record 123 Main Street, apartment B. When they move out 5 years later, they record a video of the state of when they looked out. The landlord says, no, that's not what it looked like. And he records another video. You can take those things into court, right? You resolve security deposits immediately. Or this is going to sound a little crazy, but the CEO of my company lives in Israel, and one of his neighbors is a very famous matchmaker. And she talked about the fact that people use fake videos on matchmaking, dating sites, etc., all the time. If you could,
faking a dating profile is not a new thing.
Right, exactly. But, if you looked at a video and you say, okay, look, this is clearly this person in the place that they said they were. Or how about this, right? Gaming chats all the time. You have these issues where adults are pretending to be children. But if they had a video that said, okay, this is this person in this place as recorded on this app, we're selling identity as a service in addition to all the other things. So that's Real Report.
That's good stuff, man.
Thank you. We'll be launching the beta version in May. Expect me to talk about it then too. But
cool.
We've got working demos. People who have Android phones who want to download the demo. Put a link in the chat. Tell me that you're interested in the chat, or send me a DM, and I'll send you a link to the Android demo.
You can send it to me. I got an Android, so.
All right, I will send it to you.
All
right. Let's do that quiz, baby.
Let's do the quiz. Let's have fun with that. All right.
Han Solo is going to help me out here. See, it's Han from Hoth.
All right. We see context clues. We got a lander. We got a dusty place.
Is that Athens?
I'm not sure. And then the weekly or the Tennessee legislature again. Poor AJ not here to tell us all the good stuff that's happening in Tennessee land. All right. Question number 1. College campuses across the U.S. have erupted with pro-Palestinian protests. Which university emerged as the epicenter of the demonstrations? We talked about this last week, too.
We did. I'm going to open up to a trivia question. Do you know the song Columbia, Gem of the Ocean?
No. I've probably heard it.
It's an old song. An American patriotic song popular in the 19th and 20th century. I don't know exactly why I know it. Well, I do. When I had to take piano lessons, my mom made me learn all sorts of crazy stuff, which I'm glad she did. But Columbia, Gem of the Ocean was one of the things. Yep, Craig got it. Et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I get the right of people to protest. Again, my whole thing is you're doing yourself no favors by scaring.
Well, what's crazy is so a video came out from Gaza where a Palestinian student said, "Look, we are the prisoners here. Like, stop. And so, I mean, two big things happened this week. You should probably talk about this. Unlikely it's going to be here because it happened on Friday. But, the U.S. government has been building this dock so they can start essentially giving out
Yes.
supplies.
Place to land boats. And
Exactly. So somebody shelled it on Friday. It's not clear if it was Hamas or People's Front of Judea or the Judean People's Front, whoever it was. But why did they do it? Right? They did it because right now Hamas gets money by controlling all the supplies that come into Gaza and then selling them to the people who are there. Okay, that's their model.
Yep.
So if they have a place where people can come in and essentially they're supervised by the United States, so they're not being seen or anything in this area, and they give them food and water and stuff like that, and then they walk out, it'd be very, very difficult for Hamas to take those supplies. And so this dock threatens that. Anyway, it was Colombia.
Yeah, it was Colombia.
Yeah.
All right, question number 2. Which European city was blanketed by an orange-colored haze this week? Athens, Barcelona, Berlin, or Milan?
So I'm going to guess that it was Athens because that picture looked like Athens to me. There's this really cool thing where the Parthenon is up on top of this hill. And on the other hill, this other big hill, there is... Janice also says Athens, so I think I'm right. This other hill, it's like the best view of the Parthenon. I was there in 86. That other hill, because it has such a great view, you walk up it, and it's not developed or anything like that. It's just it's Greece. But the rock underneath the dirt is marble, and it has been polished smooth. Yeah, see, that's a Parthenon over there to the left, and then to the right is the best view.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the Parthenon in Tennessee?
I have. That is a great place to score
It
dope.
is.
Or it used to be.
I didn't know that, but
Yeah.
No,
it's a good replica.
That was jarring. My first time when I moved to Atlanta, I drove across on a Greyhound bus, and we stopped, pulled through Nashville, and saw the Parthenon there. I was like, "What the hell is that?" It's a little odd for Nashville, Tennessee, but
Yep. Well, what's interesting is, in the South, there are all these towns that are named after, either Greek cities or actually cities along the Nile Delta, like Alexandria and Memphis. Those are actually all Greek Egyptian names.
Athens, Georgia. There's Rome, Georgia. Yeah.
Crazy stuff.
Lots of classical stuff. Lots of marble and all that good stuff there. All right. Question number 3. President Joe Biden signed a $95 billion aid package that could lead to a nationwide ban of which app? This one's easy.
Yeah, we know it's TikTok.
So it came out this week that that TikTok, at least the owners, and this may be a bluff, I don't know, but the owners they're going to fight it in court. They'll probably get some kind of injunction on it, I would assume. But they said that their preference is to shut it down rather than divest, which would be interesting. I don't.
Well, it would be stupid because Yahoo Shorts does everything that TikTok does now. There is an American-owned counterpart.
But nobody
ready
plays
to take
Yahoo
that
Shorts.
Huh?
Nobody. I mean, YouTube has done Shorts. Facebook has Shorts.
Reels, yeah.
I mean, there's gonna be people to take that market, but I think the anger from the people who use TikTok is something that's going to be unpredictable as we get closer to that. And it's going to be on whoever the next president is, to deal with it. But the politicians, it's going to be an interesting reaction to if TikTok goes offline.
Right. And to be fair, the ruling, the law that was passed said that TikTok has 1 year.
Yeah, essentially, it's 280 days to divest, but they make it if there's a deal in the works that hasn't quite been finalized, they can get another 90 days, which will get them to a year.
Right.
But that's not counting if there's an injunction with the courts and all that stuff. So it may, they may be able to tie this up for a long time before they really get to a
Now,
resolution. They may get to a point where the TikTok people are ready to divest and get out. So
Chuck raises a good point here that bill of attainder, which essentially means you can't make a law that targets just one person.
yep.
However, it's not really just targeting TikTok. What it is, it's targeting all the apps that are run by the Chinese government that collect personal information on Americans. Just so happens there's only one. But it's going to be an interesting conflict. I do think it's going to go to court.
Yeah.
And does the United States get to claim national security here, or does TikTok get to claim freedom of speech?
Yeah. Or give people freedom of choice to. I mean, honestly, again, I don't care what TikTok, even if the Chinese central government has every bit of information on me.
Yep.
I mean, I actually feel worse that Mark Zuckerberg has that information on me than the Chinese government.
I'm going to tell my joke again, even though I've told it once before. So
we're not above recycling here.
We're at Stalag 13, and they bring a new prisoner in. He's American, and they line everybody up at roll call. He says, "You see the clock? As the second hand moves, you go tick, tock, tick, tock, and you move your head like this, tick, tock." He says, "We do this for 1 minute. Now, start." And all the soldiers start going, tick, tock. But the new American goes, tick, tick, tick. Commandant furious. He says, "Did you not understand the rules? Do you not understand what I say? I warn you, we have ways of making you talk." All right. I'll be here all week.
Oh yeah. And James, you're right. We do collect information on other countries, and I'm sure warrantless spying and all that stuff.
Of the German Prime Minister.
Yeah. All right. Question number 4: roughly what percentage of people in the United States live with unhealthy air pollution? 5, 20, 40, or 75%?
I like to guess one of the extremes, but if I had to guess, I would guess 20% here. We are so much cleaner than we were in the 70s.
Oh yeah, but I think that the standards are so low now, like that they raised the standards to a level where more people are counted as being in unhealthy air situations. I mean, I remember driving into Albuquerque and seeing a brown cloud over it. And it happens in the winter.
Denver, same thing.
Yeah.
I agree with Chuck. They redefine it.
Janice says and they redefine it. They're like, I don't know what the definition of unhealthy air is. I mean, is it unhealthy by Chinese standards? Because have you ever seen a Chinese city? My Lord. Or,
Janice and Greg say 40, so I think we should go 40.
40. I tip those 40s. Yes, it is 40.
Nice job, guys.
Way to bail us out. I knew if I talked long enough, that answer would come to us.
Yep.
Yeah, 40% of the people in the United States live in healthy air pollution, according to a new report from the American Lung Association. Reports showed that several populous cities also received F grades for ozone smog, a form of pollution caused by emissions from cars, power plants, and refineries.
If you guys search Google Maps air quality, you can get a air quality overlay on your map. It's pretty cool.
Nice. All right, question number 5. According to a new bill in Tennessee, which public service workers may now carry guns in the workplace? Nurses, firefighters, teachers, and or crossing guards.
I mean, it's actually, we talked about this on the air last week as well.
Yep.
It's teachers.
Yeah, it was quite a scene at the Tennessee legislature this week as the you see the people here in the front of the picture. We're in the gallery, and they're screaming "Blood is on your hands" to the legislators. Of course, at least the Republicans looked very worried. The Democrats were hamming it up on the floor and egging them on. But yeah, it was um, interesting moment there. They cleared the gallery and forced everyone out. Tennessee legislature don't like to be, at least the leadership there don't like anyone questioning their motives. So
Yeah, it's I have mixed feelings about it. Uh, Fundamentally, though, I don't think you sacrifice your Second Amendment rights based on your job. So then the question becomes whether or not schools should make a workplace where people have less rights.
I
And if it's
I would
controlled by the
say,
government,
yeah, I would say that I would have requirements on training that
yeah,
they have to be trained and one in de-escalation as well as in engagement with an active shooter. Um, yeah, I mean, I have mixed feelings about it as well. We know the stories about Uvalde and Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School where the on-site security turned tail and ran,
right.
and we know that police officers do not have uh, they do have a constitutional right not to intervene in a deadly situation. They don't have the right. They're not forced to put their life on the line. The whole protect and serve is not so much a real mantra here. The courts have repeatedly ruled, including that Marjorie Stoneman Douglas lawsuit, that the security guard was well within his rights to not intervene.
Yep.
And so, if you have a teacher that could be a target, they're going to be much more likely to engage and protect their students and protect themselves.
Yeah.
But I mean, what happens with the first time a teacher pistol whips a kid for getting out of line in class?
Yeah. I mean, you can make the same argument. Like when I went to school, it was not uncommon for parents to send the students in with paddles saying,
Yeah.
when my child misbehaves, please use this paddle on them. Um, so, that's certainly an issue. On the other hand, the other issue, of course, is actual gun safety. Uh,
Yes.
you know, there's a lot of work involved in either concealed carry or something else to make sure that you're doing it in a safe manner. Uh, on the other hand, I don't have a problem with teachers open carrying in school.
I mean, you wouldn't have the kids openly
Exactly.
mouthing off at teachers like we've seen. But
Yep.
yeah, I mean, that'll be definitely an interesting scene there.
Yep.
But yeah, I see the pros and cons of all of this. But yeah, uh, it's not they're not the first state to do it.
Nope. I mean,
And I mean,
yeah,
they joined like 28 other states or 25 other states that do it now.
you're right. I mean, for me, the big issue is the one company that we say cannot be bigoted, cannot discriminate, and cannot deprive people of their constitutional rights is the government. Teachers are governmental employees. So the government has no right to say, oh, you have less rights. That's a paddling. That's
That's a
nice.
bad one. Yeah, I know. I did. North Carolina public schools gave you a paddle in.
Yep.
Um, They finally outlawed that not long after I left North Carolina. So I mean, I guess they were like, Fuente's gone. Don't have to paddle anybody anymore. All right, question number 6. Which automaker recently reported a 48% plunge in earnings? Honda, Porsche, Toyota, or Tesla?
We know this too. It's big in the news.
Didn't they have this question last week? I thought we talked about
I think
Tesla's
that like
plunge.
it was hinted at last week, and now it's official.
Yeah,
There's this whole
Tesla,
thing.
ugly financial performance. Maybe one day we do a show on Elon Musk.
It would be
Because
interesting.
I don't think he is the great business mind that everyone thinks. I think he's bet on some stuff that's gone well.
Yeah,
He has financial resources to do that, but I mean, you look at what he's done with X, and you've looked what he's done with Tesla's. Tesla's had some issues that are not completely under his control, like the whole idea with the selling cars directly to consumers in some
right.
states and countries. But there's also, I mean, you made that ugly ass truck, and is
Right.
that a truck? Like, what is that?
Right.
It's
On the other
bulletproof.
hand,
Well, nobody wants to drive it. It doesn't matter if it's bulletproof.
the thing he made that's great, that's ridiculous that nobody else did was Starlink. Starlink's
Yes,
so good.
his space stuff is fine. Like, he's had some failures on the stuff for the Artemis project, but yeah, his Starlink stuff, absolute service to the world.
Yep.
But yeah, question number 7: which type of livestock in the United States is being impacted by a bird flu outbreak? And none
I
of
know.
these are birds.
I know
Goats,
this.
cows, goats, pigs, or sheep.
I will wait to see if anybody else knows.
All right.
Do you know it?
I do not know it. It wasn't dogs, Christy Nome.
Yep.
Piece of shit.
No reason to shoot them, although she did shoot a goat.
And she shot a goat. Yeah, that's true.
Janice has it right. Traces of avian bird flu has been showing up in milk. Milk is heavily screened by the federal government.
Yeah.
As sort of a leading indicator.
To quote Joe from Twister, cow.
Yep. All right.
So cows, viral particles H5N1 bird flu viruses have been detected in dairy cows. The FDA believes that milk products on U.S. grocery shelves are still safe to drink because the viruses will likely be killed during the pasteurization process.
So a woman calls a dairy. She says, I need to order 80 gallons of milk. The dairy says, 80 gallons of milk? What for? She said, well, my doctor told me that for my skin condition, I need to take a milk bath. It's like, okay, we can definitely deliver 80 gallons of milk to you. Do you need it pasteurized? She's like, no, just up to my chin.
Oh my goodness.
Oh boy.
All right, Dan. You're out of control tonight.
I am.
Question number 8. NASA is aiming at installing a 4G network on the moon that could enable texting and streaming on the lunar surface. That's the last thing I want, are my astronauts just doom scrolling TikTok.
Exactly.
Which company is NASA partnering with on the venture? Verizon, AT&T, Nokia, or T-Mobile? I hope it's not T-Mobile, because that.
I don't know.
Anybody out there know? Because I don't know this one.
I would just.
Let's go back up to the context clue, because that's the lunar lander on the surface.
Is it?
Do we see anything? There's Texas. Any of the?
Oh, it says Nokia.
Does it say Nokia?
Yep.
Did I miss that?
Yeah. Wait till it comes around again. On the left-hand side, there are two vertical antenna, and one says Nokia on it. See, it says Nokia up at the top.
Yeah, there we go. Context clues come in big.
We're cheating. I like it. It's crazy though, because Nokia is nobody anymore in the mobile space.
Yeah. So
Good reading.
Nokia are working to take 4G into space later this year, could lay the groundwork for an off-world internet similar to Earth's. All the cat memes to the moon stat. All right, question number 9. Which theme park reported a ride collision this week that injured more than a dozen people? Disneyland, Six Flags, Universal Studios, or SeaWorld?
No idea.
Yeah, I don't know. And I'm trying to get any context clues out of this one, and I don't see.
Yeah, I was going to say
Might-
the white and black looks like Shamu, but
Yeah.
SeaWorld doesn't have Shamu anymore.
Yeah, do they have rides at SeaWorld?
I don't know.
I haven't been to a SeaWorld. I haven't been to Disneyland either. I've been to a Six Flags once. I've been to Universal Studios.
We were in 2016. We were going to go protest at SeaWorld. Me and a bunch of other libertarians who believe that cetaceans should not be held in prison. But SeaWorld released all of their
They did.
orca, so we didn't go protest.
All right.
I'm gonna guess Universal Studios
All right.
because I think if it were Disney, it would be bigger news, or we'd see a mouse on here.
Or Six Flags. Either one would be kind of the smaller ones.
But if it's Disney, I'm going to tell a joke.
Oh, boy. Oh, it's correct. Way to go, Dan.
Yeah, Craig also said Universal Studios.
Woohoo. That's a.
And everybody's cheering. They don't have to hear the Disney joke.
Well, tell your Disney joke anyway.
You know this one. Mickey Mouse is in court to get a divorce from Minnie.
Yeah.
And the judge says, Mickey, it says here that you want a divorce on the grounds that your wife is insane. No, Your Honor, I didn't say she was insane. I said she was fucking goofy.
All right. Before we get banned off of every platform, question number 10. Which artist was inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this week? Cher, Taylor Swift, Prince, or John Bon Jovi?
I know this. I'll give you a hint.
Is he halfway there?
If I could turn back time, I could find a way.
We got an answer.
Yep, I agree.
Share and share alike.
Gypsies, tramps, and thieves. Hear it from the people on the town they call us. Also,
Mary J. Blige, Cher, and the Dave Matthews. That's
10
an
out of 10
group.
I will request everybody afterwards to go look at the video of Half Breed with Cher. And my God, that woman's abdomen. Unbelievable.
I mean, I don't know what on her is original parts.
Well, this is 1970.
Oh, okay.
So she's remember that she lied about her age to get with Sonny early. So she's always been young.
Yes.
But just check out the video, Cher, Half Breed.
So
enjoy it.
I still for that Do You Believe in Life After Love, that song.
Yep.
Why they auto-tuned her voice. Because she's got a phenomenal voice.
Well, interestingly, Cher would disagree with you.
Well, I'm sure she would, but I mean, I think that she's got a phenomenal voice who would have belted that song out perfectly and didn't need the auto-tune.
I will agree with that. She did a duet with Meatloaf.
Yeah.
The Dead Ringer for Love.
Mm-hmm.
And man, she's awesome in that. I mean, that's another great video. But so first check out Half Breed by Cher, that video. And then check out Dead Ringer for Love with
Upgrades.
Meatloaf and Meatloaf and Cher. All right.
10 out of 10 this week.
Again? 10 out of 10.
Woo.
You've wasted another Sunday evening, suckers.
With us. Yeah.
But
talking about maybe getting some candidates on here pretty soon, and maybe we'll do that Elon Musk one. I think that would be an interesting one to do a deep dive on. Is Elon as good as advertised?
Yeah, I honestly don't know that much about him.
Yeah, maybe that'll be next week.
All right.
All right. So thank you for joining us. If you are on Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, give us a like, share, subscribe, smash all the buttons. It helps us out, gets it out to more people, brings more people into the chat. We have a good time chatting with you all. Craig, Janice, James, Dr. Moulton. We also had Heidi on. We had Drew from the Pirate Party, the chair of the Pirate Party. Need to have them on as well soon because they're about to do their convention. Definitely thank you so much for joining us this week, and we will see you all next Sunday night on the Political Deep Dive. Have a great night, everybody. Say good night,
Gracie.
Say good night, Gracie.
Good night, Gracie.
Gracie. Bye.